Okay, so I want to share a little bit about my new job and my previous job and everything in between. Basically, I have a new job now that I like. I've only worked 2 nights so far, but I quit a job of 2.5 years working at Casey's, a gas station that sells pizza, and I liked a lot about that. Obviously, I stayed there for a long time. I liked the schedule because I only worked part-time. I didn't work a lot of hours, a lot of days. But basically, I could go all the way back to where I was living with my mom, recovering from my second DUI, and I was mowing yards and stuff to make extra money, or to make money at all, um, and I started helping with UPS seasonally during the Christmas time, and I was trying to get my license back, and my mom helped me get my vehicle and everything, and so finally, I had to rely on transportation the whole time, or eventually I was able to get a breath machine in the vehicle, and had to have that for about a year, and but finally I got my license back, and so I was freed up, and so then I started looking for work, and I wanted to look for a work that would allow my schedule to keep helping with UPS because I like that so much, and so I just wanted to work on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I had different interviews. A lot of people didn't, want to give that kind of a part-time schedule, but I got a call from Casey's, and they needed people because people were always quitting, and that never stopped. But they, wanted somebody, and so I got the job, pretty easily on the spot, and I also agreed, that I would fill in hours when needed, whenever I could. And, I kept mowing and stuff like that during the weekdays. But I wanted to keep the schedule open for when I helped with UPS. And even though, that was only a couple of months out of the year, I didn't want to have to fight too hard to get the schedule back on track, so I didn't really want to go from full-time to, then ask for that time off around that time, because, I wanted to make sure that I had it open. So they were really good about letting me have that schedule, and I never called in until the end, but I did fill shifts because we had people quit and call in a lot. There's a lot of things I liked about it. My original schedule, I wanted to work Friday night, overnight, and then Saturday and Sunday, 3 to 10, 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., because that kind of fit with my UPS schedule, so I could come in. I could work UPS Friday morning and then come in on the overnight at Casey's, and then do Casey's on the weekend. And it ended up being where, they struggle having staff on the overnight shift, which is pretty much anywhere. Nobody likes working the overnights. It's a hard shift to commit to. And so I ended up, taking Friday and Saturday and Sunday all on the overnight. So I became strictly an overnight person after a while. And I like the social aspect of it. It was a new experience for me working customer service like that. I've worked fast food and stuff, but this was different. I'd never done a retail job, and I got to meet people in this new town. And I guess that I skipped on the part where, I was living with my mom, and this job allowed me to move out onto my own. So I started supporting myself in a lot of ways, even though I needed help a lot. And, I was, trying to get by on very little, but it helped out a lot, with moving and everything, just getting everything situated the first year and even the second year. And anyway, one of the things that kind of sucked about working the overnights was being, a recovering drug addict myself, and seeing a lot of people come in who were high or drunk, and I found out this town had a pretty big meth problem. I see a lot of customers get arrested, not in front of me or anything, but I'd read about them in the paper, and then they would get out, and they would get right back on the stuff, and then go right back to jail, and it was kind of depressing for me to see stuff like that. And I actually found meth at work. I found bags of meth multiple times, probably mainly from one person who was pretty bad about selling it and stuff, and there are certain people who would always come in tweaked out. You could definitely tell when they're acting really jittery and talking fast and just acting weird. You can tell when somebody's drunk, when somebody's stoned, when somebody's high on meth. You can tell by their characteristics. But so stuff like that, But I would talk to the police officers and have friendly conversations, and so there were a lot of customers that I enjoyed talking to, and I made friends, and there were coworkers that I liked, and there were coworkers that were annoying and stuff too, but for the most part I got along with a lot of people. But I'm saying this because I decided to reach out to a handful of people who ended up going to prison that were customers, and just out of curiosity, just to get to know them, just to know their story. And some wrote back, some didn't, and there was one girl in particular that I was interested in. She wrote back, and I wanted to kind of, I kind of just stuck with writing her, and we wrote each other for about 6 months, and I always talked to her about recovery and stuff, and I wanted her to do good, and she would always tell me that, she wanted to change and everything, and I helped her with money when I could, with books, and I visited her, and I really enjoyed that experience. I've always wanted to visit somebody in prison. I always wanted to learn more about it, because I've been incarcerated myself in jail, but I've never been to prison, and just more curious about that stuff. But anyway, so we had a pretty close relationship, getting to know each other as much as we could through phone calls and letters and whatnot. And so I was really looking forward to her getting out, and we were supposed to hang out and, be friends and everything. And when she got out, which was recently, she did like a 180 and completely changed. I had some money to give her when she got out for clothes. She asked for it, and I thought, she's gained weight when she was in there, and so I wanted to give her money for clothes. I thought, that's a good thing. And, I've experienced that myself, and, I've had people help me get clothes, and when I've gained weight, and I know what it's like to not be able to fit in the pants anymore. And so I did that, and she texted me when she got out. She said, she went to Walmart, and she said that she could only find like one pair of jeans that fit her or whatever, and I was like, okay, that's kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. And, then she would text me and say, well, she was going to Dairy Queen to eat, and then she'd text me and say that, she got home, and I had some gifts for her to be given to her when she got home, too. And so she opened the gifts, and she said she was going to take a shower, and then, she was really going to be able to talk to me after that, because she was just kind of giving me these updates every now and then, about what was going on, and I was fine with that, knowing that, she just got out, and she's probably going to spend time with family and stuff, and we would talk whenever she could, but she told me, when I get out of the shower or whatever, I'll be able to talk, and, well, she didn't message me again for about 3 hours later. And, she would just message me telling me, she was watching some show or something. And so she kind of just gave me these updates sporadically, like every few hours or something, kind of just like checking in on me. I felt like she was just kind of keeping me on a string. Like she wasn't really, replying to questions or things that I was saying. And I had given her an old computer that I had that I bought when I was first started working for UPS, an old netbook. I've got another one, but I thought, maybe this could be something that could help her, because in this day and age, you kind of need a computer and stuff to, apply places and stuff like that. So it's not really a big deal to me. It was cheap when I got it. It's old, but it's still definitely useful. Anyways, I had to go into work, and, it kind of stunk that we didn't really talk a whole lot when she got out, but I was like, oh, it's her first day. I kind of figured that. And then I thought, maybe she'll message me at work. It's late at night, and she's kind of relaxed, and she'll be able to talk more or whatever. Well, she messaged me, and she was telling me kind of how the computer's junk. She can't get it to work or whatever. And I was like, well, I felt like she was kind of ungrateful, or like she was kind of impatient. Like, I understand it wasn't perfect, but it's like, man, I felt like she was ungrateful and impatient. And, it was kind of rocky just with visiting her in prison and stuff. There was a period where I quit talking to her for a little while because I found out that she was talking to one of her old friends that she partied with, and that really kind of upset me. And she was also getting kind of sporadic with writing me and stuff while she was in there. It got to the point where, during the time around December or November when I was helping with UPS and working at Casey's, so I was like busy all the time, and I was really looking forward to her phone calls and her letters. And it got to the point to where like she was barely doing it. Like, she would call me like once a week, and the call might be like 5 or 10 minutes long. And I was giving her money. Like, she could have called me, but I kind of wanted to be like, whatever. But it got to the point where when I found out she was talking to this friend, I confronted her about it, and then she blew up. She's my friend, and I'm going to do what I want. After telling me she was going to quit talking to some of these old friends, I was a little disappointed. Like, you can't even wait until you get out. Like, you're already keeping contact with these people that you shouldn't be. And I knew, because the person that she was talking to was coming into the gas station messed up, and I was like, this is not a good influence, but she's going to do what she wants to do. Well, I quit talking to her for a couple of weeks or so. I was going to quit talking to her altogether, but I thought, I should, she was calling me, and I was ignoring her calls, and I thought, after 2 weeks, like the day after Christmas, she called me, and, I was in a really good mood then, after Christmas and stuff, and I thought, I should give her a chance to speak. So I started talking to her again, and after that time, she started calling me every night. Like, she called me like every single night after that. So I thought, wow, this is different. This is a change. She's putting forth an effort now, and she's really, there was a real change, I thought. And she started writing me letters more frequently again. So I thought that when she got out, we were going to be talking and stuff. And so the first night when she got out, I've kind of explained that it wasn't really great. After the computer thing, she said she was going to go to sleep or whatever. Okay. So I didn't really feel too great about that. I think the next day, so that was a Friday night, and I was at work. And the next morning, she did not get on. She didn't text me or message me on Facebook until like way in the afternoon. Like, she said she slept the whole time. And I knew that her uncle tried to add me on Facebook, and I thought, that was kind of weird, and I thought, kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to be good. Why is her family member trying to add me? And, I was like, should I wait to talk to her? And I was like, well, I'll go ahead and accept his request and try to talk to him and get to know him. I thought, well, maybe he just wants to get to know me. That's fine. But, I just made a post not long ago about not wanting to add people who I'm not really friends with, or people who aren't really going to talk to me and stuff. I don't want people just, peeking into my life, and I don't want to peek into theirs. So I try to keep like a close-knit friends, list on Facebook. And her uncle, her uncle sent me the request. So I accepted it. And I waited a little bit to see if he was going to message me or something. He didn't. I don't think he had any intentions of messaging me. He just kind of wanted to peek at things. And, I'm not really cool with that. So I was like, are you Carly's uncle? I knew he was. And he said, yeah. And I was like, I just made a post about not, having people on my Facebook I don't really know, so I'd like to get to know you, LOL. And then he was like, well, he's like, you can delete me if you want. And I was like, wow, that's how you're going to respond? So I blocked him. So I'm like, okay, then I will, because you're the one that sent me the friend request. I really don't have an interest in getting to know you right now. Like, if we get to know each other in person down the line, that's cool. Like, but if you're just wanting to just be, hovering in the background on my Facebook, I don't think so, buddy. Especially if you're not gonna be friendly. Well, apparently he said he was just joking, but how was I supposed to know? So he sent Carly a screenshot of the message, and I did too. And I thought, oh, here we go. This is gonna cause some problems, obviously. And she's like, Brandon, this isn't off to a good start. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Just getting sick of this stuff. And, I talked to her about it, and then, she's just like, whatever. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm over it. And, I don't really remember exactly, she's basically like later on at the night, she was like, we'll talk in the morning or whatever. So, okay. After that whole ordeal, I was a little depressed. I was definitely feeling that things weren't going well from the night before and that. So I ended up calling into work that night at Casey's. I called into work, and the first time I ever called in, I don't know. I just felt pretty depressed after this whole situation of, 6 months of, really committing my time and effort to her, always putting her first. And I felt like, I was being treated like, less than a friend here. Like, so, and, at that night I was looking at her Facebook, and I was realizing that, other old partying friends were leaving messages like, hey, let's like hang out as soon as possible and stuff. And she was like, yeah, totally, and everything. And, I confronted her about that and stuff, and she's like, well, there was a couple of friends like that. The first time I confronted her about that, she was like, I just don't want to start drama or whatever. It was like the same girl that we had argued about, like, while she was in prison. And I'm like, whatever. Like, she said she was going to, like, remove these people from her Facebook when she got out, and, like, everything was going to be totally different. It blows my mind how much she lied to me. And she lied to herself, really. I mean, when you lie like that, you lie to yourself. Like, anyway, that night I found out, there was another friend on there that was bad, that was talking to her. And so I left her some messages, like, while she was sleeping, like, you're talking to this person too. Well, the next morning she didn't get on until, like, way late in the afternoon again. And when she had told me, we'll talk about this in the morning. She doesn't get on until afternoon, and then she went irate on me, like, you can't control me, you're trying to tell me who to talk to and all this stuff, and, basically screw you and get lost is what she's saying. And I'm like, wow, like, I had already called in the night before because of the uncle deal, that crap. And then, after this was just like the final blow. I was like, and not only that, her brother, who I have met, and, I kind of got along with. I thought he was cool. He liked to play video games. He'd come over and play video games and stuff. So it's like, okay, whatever. There were some things about her brother that is a little sketchy, but, I tried to, he's younger, and, for the most part, we got along. But I think that morning, before Carly got on, because she got on later in the afternoon, he had messaged me. We just played, video games together like the night before she got released, because I gave him the gifts that was and the money for the clothes that was to be given to her. And when I said, there was some iffy things about him, there was a few different things, but one of the things was that, I told him that I was giving Carly these gifts, and then he's like, yeah, I got to get my girlfriend some gifts or whatever for Valentine's Day, but, he doesn't have any money, and, he said he's got to work for some money or whatever, so I told him I'd give him some money for giving Carly these gifts and stuff, for being the middleman and doing stuff for his sister or whatever, and just to help him out. I just wanted to help him out so he could get some gifts for his girlfriend, because, I just gotten paid or whatever, and I don't know, so I gave him $20, because, which, is kind of a lot, but I was like, that'll get a nice gift or whatever. And when I told him I'd give him $20, he just kind of like, okay. He didn't really say like, wow, you don't got to do that or anything. Like, I don't know. It's just the way that I am is like giving him $20 for like doing nothing, basically. He was just like, okay, like whatever, I'll take it. Like, it's like, okay, that's fine. But, it's just different to me. But that morning, okay, the last morning before Carly snapped on me and I got really ticked off, he messaged me and asked if I had a second Xbox controller. And I told him, yeah, because he's got an Xbox, and he said, well, my Xbox controller's broken or whatever, can I borrow yours? And I was like, what the world, man? And he's like, how... I thought about it for a while, and I was like, we played games together, I'm trying to think of him separate from his sister, and, when I was his age and he was young and, not having a job and everything, and, I was like, yeah, it won't hurt me to let him borrow it, because I'm not always using a second controller, so I was like, how long you plan on borrowing it or whatever? He's like, well, like a week, and... So I was like, okay. So I gave him like the old Xbox controller that I had that came with the system. I got a nicer one, but I gave him this older one, and I didn't give him, I gave him the regular battery pack or whatever, not the chargeable thing, and so he came over and I let him borrow it. But I was feeling kind of used at that point out of everything from him and from her, and then it was after that Carly snapped on me, and I blocked both of them on Facebook, and I just figured, I'm kind of done, and I called in to work again that night, and I was getting kind of depressed about work, and since I work at a gas station, it's like I don't want to see her, I don't want to see any of her old friends that have ticked me off. And, I didn't know. I just know that I was really thinking about, I was wanting to get another job. I was wanting to look for another job anyway. I kind of already planned on it after this Japan trip. I just figured that there's no full-time job that's really going to be okay with a new hire, like taking off a week or whatever, which I could be wrong, but, to me, some of the jobs that I was thinking about going to, I figured, they might not be okay with that, because usually, sometimes there's like a 30-day grace period, or I don't know, a grace period, but a probation period, like where you can't like miss any days, like for the first 30 days. Some jobs do that. Stuff like that, I don't know. So we were coming on Monday morning, and I started looking on Indeed. I was looking for different jobs. I always check there every now and then. And I guess I've seen this application for Timewell. I've seen this place a lot on there, and I've probably even applied before, but I don't know. I clicked on something, and it was like, send your resume, like send a resume or build a resume or something. So I was like, build a resume and something like that. And basically, all it did was ask for my name, my number, and my email. And then I sent it, and I was like, that's weird. Like, where's, other options, like my previous work and stuff? Like, it seems kind of skimpy. Like, I'm like, well, at least my name's in the system, I guess. At least I did something. And, I got a call back like 30 minutes later. I got like a text and a call. And they were like, this is from Adecco. Like, you need to call back. And I called and they're like, are you interested in this job? And I was like, yeah. And, she told me, like, okay, well, then I'm going to send you these forms on the internet to fill out. And so I filled out these forms, and then she's like, you need to get right back with me as soon as you fill these forms out. So I did them really quick. It was in the morning. I was awake, and I was at the computer, and I did that. And the forms would basically, like, some tax forms and stuff. It was not, like, hundreds of questions about me or anything like that. Just some simple stuff. A lot of stuff, I just clicked agree to and signed. And she's like, you need to contact me as soon as you fill these out. I contacted her, and she's like, okay, we need you to come to Quincy to give your proof of ID and to take a drug test. And Quincy's like an hour away. I was like, okay, well, maybe can I come in, like, when can I come in, like, later this week or something, like, she's like, we want you to come in, like, as soon as possible. And I was like, well, I don't know if I can do it today, what about tomorrow? Like, I didn't have any gas or any money or anything. And, she's like, yeah, I can do it tomorrow, but, like, the longer you wait, you don't know if the job's going to be available. So I was like, okay. I told her, like, I'll plan on, doing it tomorrow unless something changes, I'll call you back. And I just kind of I let it stew in my mind. And I was like, well, I can talk to Mom. She'll probably help me get some money for gas, and I can go and, give it a shot. So I called him back, and I was like, I'm going to come today. And Mom helped me. I got gas, and I went to Quincy. And I showed my ID, my driver's license, my social security card, and I took a drug test. It was a mouth swab that I had to hold this thing in my mouth for like 5 minutes. And, obviously I don't do drugs or anything, so that was fine. And she basically gave me, an envelope with my card that I would get paid on it, and she was telling me, I guess I kind of jump it around the story here, but when I talked to her on the phone before I even went to Quincy, I was like, hey, hold up, there's one thing, like, I've got a, trip planned to Japan in, like, April, like, I need to know if I can have, like, a week off or whatever. And she's like, yeah, she's like, since you've already got tickets, since you've already planned ahead, like, they'll probably be okay with that. So I was like, okay, that's why I went ahead and went to Quincy. That's why, I made sure that was okay. And she's like, yeah, probably. And so when I went to the office, she was like, I'm going to contact them and tell them about your trip and see if you can have these days off. And if you pass a background test, then you'll be good to go to come in, the next night. And so I was supposed to work at Casey's that night also. I went in and asked to pick up an hour or a day, and I picked up that day, Monday night. And I called in for that because I was like, man, if I'm going to have this new job, I'm going to go ahead and take this night off. Then I'm just going to be done with Casey's, I didn't want to go to Casey's because I didn't want to, have the chance to see her or her friends, or even if that didn't happen, there's lots of other things about Casey's that, I'll have to talk about in another thing, but we went through multiple managers and there's so many changes, and, we're getting to where we have to count cigarettes again. That's not something I enjoyed. I didn't enjoy coming in on the mornings when, a certain woman worked who was sometimes made it a pain in the butt to leave. I didn't enjoy, we just had a couple of other people quit at the same time, and they've hired somebody new who was known for doing meth in the town, and she was a customer, and she kind of annoyed me as a customer, and I particularly didn't really want to work with her either. And so I thought, man, this new job is going to be full-time, third shift. It pays basically 14 an hour, and I get paid weekly. And I'm going to have Saturday and Sunday nights off. And that's a lot of bonuses there. Especially, the money boost, but I mean, the schedule, having the weekends off after working the weekends for 2.5 years, and getting paid weekly instead of bi-weekly, because I was getting paid bi-weekly at Casey's, and I'm not really a big fan of that. I like getting paid every week. That it's a motivation to keep working through the week. I mean, sometimes 2 weeks is just too far away. It's like if I'm broke, if I make myself broke really quick, I know I only got to wait a week to get paid again. But, so, I was getting to the point to where I was going to be done at Casey's anyways. Like I said, I was planning on leaving. But I didn't know if there was going to be a place that would allow me to have the trip off. But this place did. And this place, I didn't have to go to any interviews or anything like that. It was just, at the snap of a finger, just fill out a few forms. They gave me the job. That's great. And so far, I like the job. But that's pretty much that. I mean, Carly's a big factor of me getting this job, switching jobs quicker, but I think it's a blessing. It's an answered prayer, I think, because, I prayed for a long time about God giving me a job, before I got the job at Casey's, and that was like perfect for the time, and I think it's been its time. And it's unfortunate that I called in. It's unfortunate that I had to quit suddenly, because, there's no way I was going to, they didn't want to wait 2 weeks, and there's no way that I was going to work at Casey's on the weekends, while working this during the week, and it would have conflicted on Fridays, and like I said, I was pretty much done with Casey's anyway, so I had to leave, I had to quit. And I don't know what else to say, really. I'm really happy just the way that things have turned out. Like I said about being answered prayer, I prayed for years to get the right job and the right schedule, and I think Casey's was an answer to that, but I think God's still answering the prayer, years later, that, how something so perfect could pop up like this at the perfect time, and, everything just be right. Just praise God. That's all I gotta say. I'm really grateful for this job. And, who knows how long I'll be here. Maybe I'll talk about that for another video, but, I like it, and I could be there for a long time, but, there could be other advances in other places, but for now, I really like that. I'm gonna stick with that. So, this video's been long enough. God bless.